The closest I ever came to losing my entire unit wasn't during the firefight in Haditha. It wasn't the IED outside Ramadi that flipped our Humvee and left me deaf in one ear for 3 days. It was a Tuesday morning in a half-collapsed district of Mosul when I looked at my radio, listened to the voice on the other end telling me exactly what to do, and decided that following those orders would get everyone killed. That decision cost me my career, but 23 people are alive because of it. This is what really happened. I'd been in country for 4 rotations by then. That's not bragging, it's context. By your 4th deployment, you stop seeing the war through the lens of training manuals and start seeing it for what it actually is, 1,000 small decisions where the wrong choice means someone doesn't go home. My call sign was Reaper 6. I led a 12-man reconnaissance and escort team attached to a forward operating base outside Mosul. We weren't door kickers. We weren't the guys who made the highlight reels. We were the ones who moved quietly through contested zones, gathered intelligence, and got high-value personnel from point A to point B without anyone noticing. My team was good. Corporal Davies had been with me for 2 deployments. Sharp eyes, sharper instincts. Sergeant Chun handled communications and had an almost supernatural ability to read radio chatter for what wasn't being said. Then there was Martinez, our medic, who'd save more lives with a tourniquet than most soldiers do with a rifle. 12 men and women who trusted each other because we'd earned it in the only classroom that matters. That morning started like any other. Coffee that tasted like motor oil, equipment checks, the usual dark humor that keeps you sane in a place designed to break you. But there was something in the air. You develop a sense for it after enough time. The way the locals moved through the streets, the patterns of traffic, the silence where there should have been noise. Davies caught my eye during the briefing. Just a glance. I knew he felt it too. Something's off, he said quietly as we geared up. I nodded. Stay sharp. We always stayed sharp. But that day, I wish I'd listened to that instinct harder. The briefing came from higher up the chain than usual. Not our battalion commander, someone from division, maybe higher. The voice on the secure line was smooth, confident, and introduced himself with a designation I didn't recognize. Our mission: escort a 3-vehicle convoy carrying civilian contractors through the Shahada district to a secure compound on the eastern edge. Simple. We'd done 100 similar runs. But the route was wrong. Sir, I said into the handset, studying the map. That route takes us through 2 known choke points. We've had consistent enemy activity there for 3 weeks. I'd recommend the northern approach. Adds 15 minutes, but keeps us clear of the route is non-negotiable, Reaper 6. The voice was pleasant but final. The contractors have time-sensitive equipment. Delays are not acceptable. I looked at Chun. He was frowning at his own map. Copy that, I said. Can I get updated intel on civilian patterns? Marketplace activity, school schedules? Shahada is under curfew. Minimal civilian presence expected. That was the second thing that didn't sit right. Curfews in that district never held. There were always people, shopkeepers, kids, someone. The neighborhood was too poor to abandon completely, even during the worst fighting. Rules of engagement? I asked. Standard ROE. Defend if engaged. Minimize collateral damage. Questions? I had about 15, but something in that voice told me I wouldn't get real answers. Negative. Reaper 6 out. Davies was already shaking his head before I put down the handset. Boss, that route is shit. We both know it. I know. So why are we taking it? Because those are the orders. But even as I said it, I was thinking about exits, alternatives, what we'd do if this went sideways. 4th deployment instinct. Always have a plan that isn't the one they gave you. Chin approached with his tablet. I pulled up the last week of radio traffic from that sector. It's been quiet. Too quiet. Define too quiet. No enemy comms at all. Usually we pick up something, chatter, movement reports, even if it's coded. But there's nothing. Like someone cleared the channel. Martinez joined us, medical pack already strapped to his back. We rolling. In 10, I said. But everyone keeps their head on a swivel. This one feels wrong. They all feel wrong, boss, Martinez said with a tired smile. Yeah, but this one's different. The convoy rolled out at 0700. 3 civilian vehicles, white SUVs with contractor logos, sandwiched between our lead and rear elements. Standard box formation. We took the route we'd been ordered to take. The Shahada district looked like most of Mosul. Buildings with blast damage, streets cratered by old IED strikes, walls covered in faded graffiti and bullet holes. But Davies was right about the civilians. The streets were empty. Not curfew empty, abandoned empty. Doors closed, windows shuttered. That kind of silence that screams danger to anyone who's been paying attention. Reaper 6, this is Reaper 2. Davies' voice came through my earpiece. I've got no visual on civilians. Nothing moving. Copy. Stay alert. We were 3 blocks from the first choke point when Chen's voice cut through. Boss, I'm picking up radio traffic. Local frequency. It's coded, but the lead contractor vehicle exploded. Not an IED. An RPG from a rooftop 200 meters north. The vehicle lurched sideways, black smoke pouring from the engine block. The concussion wave hit us a second later. Contact north. Rooftop level. Davies was already returning fire, controlled bursts toward the source. But something was wrong. The attack was wrong. A single RPG against a hardened convoy? That's not how insurgents operated in this district. They hit in waves, multiple firing positions, coordinated chaos designed to pin and overwhelm. This was one shooter. Alone. Reaper elements, suppress and maneuver. I was moving on instinct, getting my team into position while my mind raced. Chen, call it in. Already on it, boss. Higher is acknowledging. His voice changed. Wait. I'm getting new orders. What orders? They're telling us to hold position and wait for QRF. I looked at the burning contractor vehicle. One of the doors was opening. Someone was trying to get out, stumbling, injured. Hold position? We've got wounded. That's what they're saying, boss. Hold and wait for quick reaction force. Every instinct I developed over 4 deployments was screaming. You don't leave wounded in the kill zone. You don't wait for QRF when you can move now. And you sure as hell don't sit still when someone's coordinating your position. Martinez was already moving toward the vehicle. Boss, I've got 3 wounded in that SUV. 1 critical. Chun, tell Hire we're extracting wounded now. Boss, they're saying, I don't care what they're saying. We're not leaving people to bleed out while we wait for permission. I moved with Martinez. Davies and 3 others provided covering fire while we pulled the contractors clear. 2 had minor injuries. The third, a woman in her 30s, civilian contractor, had shrapnel wounds across her torso and was fading fast. She needs a hospital now, Martinez said, already working to stabilize her. We've got maybe 20 minutes. I keep my radio. Reaper 6 to Hire. We have 1 critical casualty requiring immediate medevac. Reaper 6, your orders are to hold position. The voice was different now. Sharper. QRF is en route. Do not deviate from current location. I looked around the street. The other 2 contractor vehicles had stopped, their passengers watching us with terrified eyes. My team was exposed, grouped in the middle of an empty street in hostile territory, and Hire wanted us to sit here like targets. That's when I saw them. Civilians. Emerging from buildings 3 blocks south. Not running away from the gunfire, running toward us. Women, children, old men. At least 40 people, maybe more. Chun, are you seeing this? Yeah, boss. I don't. Why are they moving toward contact? Because they weren't. They were running from something else. I grabbed my binoculars and scanned south. Through the heat, shimmer, and dust, I could see them. Vehicles moving into position, men with weapons dismounting, setting up firing positions that would give them perfect enfilade along our entire route. We weren't being attacked. We were being herded. That single RPG had been designed to stop us here, in this exact spot, where the civilians would be caught between us and whoever was about to hit us from the south. The civilians weren't moving toward the gunfire. They were being pushed into it, used as cover for an attack that would kill every single one of them. "Chun," I said quietly, "get higher on the line. Now." "Reaper 6, this is higher. You will hold current position until higher. We have approximately 40 civilians moving into our sector from the south. Enemy elements are using them as concealment for a flanking maneuver. If we hold this position, those civilians are going to be caught in a crossfire. Request permission to relocate to defensive position and create safe corridor for non-combatants." Silence on the line. Too long. "Reaper 6, maintain current position. QRF is 7 minutes out." 7 minutes. 7 minutes while civilians walked into a kill zone. 7 minutes while insurgents positioned themselves behind human shields. 7 minutes following orders that would get everyone killed. I looked at my team. Davies was watching me, waiting. Chen had that expression he got when he knew something was wrong, but couldn't put it into words. Martinez was still working on the wounded contractor, but his eyes were on me too. Fourth deployment. 1,000 small decisions. "Reaper elements," I said calmly. "We're moving to the eastern compound. Combat interval. Davies, take point with Martinez and the wounded. Chun, I need you to find me an entry point to that compound that doesn't expose us to southern approach. Everyone else, covering positions on my command." "Boss," Chen said quietly. Hire said, "I know what Hire said. And in 7 minutes, I'll answer for it. Right now, those civilians need a way out, and we need to not be where those insurgents think we are. Move." My team didn't hesitate. That's the thing about good soldiers. They don't follow orders blindly. They follow leaders who've earned their trust through decisions that kept them alive. We moved fast. Davies led the contractors and wounded toward the eastern compound, an old-school building with stone walls and clear sight lines. Shin found us a breach point on the northern side. My remaining 8 team members and I established a corridor, positioning ourselves so the civilians could pass through without entering the kill zone. The radio was screaming at me. Hire was demanding I acknowledge orders. I ignored it. "Chun, local frequency. Broadcast in Arabic. Civilians move east to the stone building. Do not go south. East to the stone building." He did it. And slowly, the crowd shifted. Some looked confused. Others seemed to understand immediately. A woman grabbed her children and started running east. Others followed. That's when the shooting started from the south. But we weren't where they expected us to be. We were 50 meters east, behind cover, with clear firing lanes. And the insurgents who'd positioned themselves to hit us in that kill zone suddenly found themselves exposed. Davies' voice was steady. "Multiple targets, southern approach, moving in the open. Weapons free. Protect those civilians." The firefight lasted 90 seconds. My team was disciplined, accurate, controlled. We weren't trying to win a battle, we were trying to buy time. The insurgents realized fast that their ambush had failed and started pulling back. By the time QRF arrived, the civilians were inside the compound. The wounded contractor was stable, and my team was holding a defensible position. The quick reaction force commander looked around, then at me. "Reaper 6, what the hell happened to holding position?" "Situation changed," I said. "Made a judgment call." He studied me for a long moment. "Hire's pissed." "Yeah, I figured." The debrief was 3 hours later. I expected to be relieved of command, maybe court-martialed. Instead, I was escorted to a SCAF, a sensitive compartmented information facility, where I'd never been before. The man waiting for me wasn't in uniform. Civilian contractor badge, expensive watch, the kind of face that doesn't show anything. "Sergeant," he said. "Not my rank, but close enough. You disobeyed direct orders." "I made a tactical decision based on ground truth, sir." "Ground truth." He smiled without warmth. "You were ordered to hold position. Instead, you relocated an entire civilian population and engaged hostile forces without authorization. With respect, sir, holding that position would have resulted in mass civilian casualties and likely loss of my entire team. Yes, he said quietly. It would have. The way he said it made my blood cold. Excuse me. He opened a folder. Inside were photographs. Aerial shots of the Shahada district, taken from a drone. Timestamped from 2 hours before our mission. The images clearly showed enemy fighters moving into position around the exact location where Hire had ordered us to hold. They knew. Before we rolled out, they knew we were being sent into an ambush. I don't understand, I said, though I was starting to. Those contractors you escorted were carrying surveillance equipment. Highly specialized, highly valuable. The insurgents wanted it. We wanted to identify their network, see who would show up to take it, where they'd move it, who they'd contact. You used my team as bait. We used a calculated opportunity to gather intelligence. And the civilians? He closed the folder. Acceptable risk. I'd been in combat for years. I'd seen things that still wake me up at night. But sitting in that room, looking at this man who'd ordered me to let people die so he could track some electronics, I felt something I'd never felt downrange. Pure, cold rage. Who authorized this? My voice didn't sound like my own. That's above your clearance level. 23 civilians. 3 wounded contractors. 12 soldiers. You were willing to sacrifice all of us. I was willing to accept casualties in pursuit of a strategic objective. That's called warfare, Sergeant. That's called murder. He stood. You'll be reassigned within 48 hours. This conversation never happened. The mission report will reflect that you encountered unexpected resistance and responded appropriately. You'll receive a commendation for your actions. I don't want a commendation. I want what you want is irrelevant. You broke operational security by disobeying orders. You're lucky you're not being charged. Take the win, Sergeant. You saved some lives. Be proud of that. He walked out. I sat there for a long time, understanding that I'd just seen how the machine really worked. Orders that made no tactical sense. Intel that was deliberately incomplete. Radio calls designed to keep us in place while we were being set up. Chen had been right. The channel had been too quiet. Because someone had made sure it was. They'd wanted us deaf and blind, sitting exactly where the enemy could find us. The next morning, I gathered my team. Not officially. No briefing room, no formal setting. Just 12 people who'd trusted me with their lives, standing in the dusty space behind the motor pool. I told them everything. When I finished, Davy spoke first. So they set us up to die? To be bait, I corrected. But yeah. And that contractor gear? What was so special about it? I don't know. Above my clearance, apparently. Martinez shook his head. Man, I signed up to fight, not to be someone's chess piece. We're always someone's chess piece, Chin said quietly. That's the job. But usually they at least pretend to care if we make it off the board. Silence settled over the group. The kind of silence that happens when people realize something fundamental has changed. So what do we do? Davies asked. I'd been thinking about that all night. We document everything. Every inconsistency in that mission brief. The drone footage showing they knew about the ambush. The radio transcripts. Chun, you kept recordings? Always do, boss. Good. We compile it, and we make sure it gets to someone who'll actually do something with it. Inspector General, maybe. Or a congressional oversight committee. They'll bury us, Martinez said. Maybe. Probably. But those 23 civilians are alive because we didn't follow orders. And if we don't say something, this'll happen again. Different team, different district, same outcome. People die so someone can run their operation. Davies straightened. I'm in. Me too, Chin said. One by one, they all agreed. 12 people who'd just learned their own command had been willing to sacrifice them, deciding to fight back anyway. Not with weapons, with truth. The report took 3 days to compile. Chin did most of the technical work, pulling radio logs, matching timestamps, creating a timeline that showed exactly how our orders had contradicted the intelligence available. Davies provided tactical analysis, demonstrating how the mission parameters guaranteed we'd be pinned in a kill zone. Martinez documented the medical consequences, the injuries that could have been prevented with proper intelligence. I wrote the narrative. We sent it through channels. Inspector General, Congressional Armed Services Committee, a military journalist we trusted who'd embedded with us the previous year. Then we waited. The reassignment orders came first. My team was scattered across 3 different units within a week. Not punitive, on paper, but deliberate, breaking up a group that had just proven they'd put truth over convenience. I got sent to a training command stateside. Honorable duty, but a clear message: you're done downrange. The investigation took 8 months. Most of it happened behind closed doors. But eventually, things started to leak. A news story about civilian contractors operating with insufficient oversight. A congressional hearing about intelligence operations that put American troops at risk. Nothing that named names or pointed directly at what happened in Shahada, but enough that people started asking questions. The civilian contractor I'd never met, the one who'd set us up, disappeared from his position, resigned to pursue other opportunities, according to the official statement. Translation: fired quietly, no charges, golden parachute intact. 3 mid-level officers received letters of reprimand. Filed away, career limiting but not ending. And my team? We got our commendations after all. Medals for valor, ceremony with a general, nice words about courage under fire. Nothing about disobeying orders. Nothing about the truth we'd forced into the light. Davies flew in for the ceremony. Afterwards, we got coffee at a diner off base. You think it mattered? He asked. What we did. I thought about it. Yeah, maybe not the way we wanted. But that operation they were running? It stopped. And someone, somewhere, is going to think twice before they use troops as bait again. Worth it. 23 people are alive, Davies. Yeah, it was worth it. He nodded slowly. You know they'll never let you deploy again. I know. You okay with that? I looked out the window at traffic moving past. Normal people living normal lives. No idea what happened in places like Shahada. I'm 32 years old. I've done 4 combat deployments. I've lost friends. I've made decisions that haunt me. And I've seen enough of war to last me a lifetime. If they want to park me at a training base where I can teach new soldiers how to think for themselves, yeah, I'm okay with that. You're going to be a pain in the ass as an instructor, you know that? I smiled. That's the idea. I retired 3 years later. Honorable discharge, full benefits, a handshake from a colonel who knew exactly why I'd never make captain. That's fine. Some promotions aren't worth the price. I still talk to my team. Chin's running security for a tech company in Seattle. Martinez went to medical school, emergency medicine, naturally. Davies stayed in, somehow. Made sergeant major last year. He called to tell me, and we laughed about the irony. They made me the guy who's supposed to enforce the rules, he said. Yeah, but you'll be the guy who questions orders that don't make sense. Learn from the best, boss. I teach now. Community college, military history and ethics. My students are mostly veterans using their GI Bill. Kids trying to make sense of what they saw downrange. I tell them the truth. War is complicated, command is imperfect, and sometimes the hardest thing you'll ever do is decide that an order is wrong. I don't tell them the Shahada story. Not directly. But I teach them to think, to question, to understand that following orders and doing the right thing aren't always the same. Last month, I got a letter. No return address, postmarked from Virginia. Inside was a news clipping about a new military policy requiring independent oversight for operations involving civilian populations in combat zones. Attached was a handwritten note. Your report helped make this happen. Not everyone who read it was willing to look the other way. A friend. I don't know who sent it. Maybe someone from that investigation. Maybe someone who'd been waiting for a reason to push for change. It doesn't matter. 23 people are alive. My team made it home. And somewhere, maybe, the next unit that rolls into an ambush will have better intelligence, clearer orders, and a command structure that won't sacrifice them for convenience. That Tuesday morning in Mosul, I looked at my radio and made a choice. It cost me my career. It cost me the future I'd planned in the military. But I'd make the same choice tomorrow. Because orders matter. Strategy matters. The mission matters. But lives matter more. And if they teach you anything else, they're teaching you wrong. If you enjoyed this story, subscribe to Epic Recon Stories. Here we tell the missions that never made the headlines, the decisions made in silence, and the people who carried them. More stories are coming soon.